Maybe you didn't make the turkey and you bought it. Maybe you didn't save the drippings, or maybe you want to make a vegetarian version of gravy for your people at your table that don't eat meat. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I make a super easy, super delicious gravy that's vegetarian and comes together in minutes. For the full ingredient list, check the description box below. But enough talking, let's get cooking. To make this quick gravy, we're going to put a dice on some onions. We're going to chop up some mushrooms and a little bit of garlic. Normally I use way more than 3 cloves of garlic, but we don't want garlic to overpower this. We just wanted to add a little bit of flavor boost. So this onion is a little large, so I'm just gonna put about half of it in. If your onions are a little smaller, you could probably get by with a whole onion. Now we're gonna end up blending this, but I wanna make sure that we cut everything really small so it cooks fast and evenly. And part of using these aromatics inside this is so they release their moisture as they're cooking. So we're gonna put a pretty small dice on this onion. So now we're gonna chop up some mushrooms. So I'm just gonna slice these down first. And now I'm just gonna go chopping on top until we get these down much more finely. Mushrooms have wonderful juice on the inside, and that's gonna add a lot of flavor to this quick gravy. You know, mushrooms are the meat of the plant world, where they're not exactly plants. Mushrooms are their own thing. They are the non-meat, non-animal meat. So they have very, very similar flavors. They're full of umami flavor the same way that meat is. And now that I see this all chopped up, this is way more mushrooms than I wanted to chop up. So I'm gonna take as much mushrooms as are about the same amount of onion. So I'm just gonna eyeball it. We'll put maybe about half this pile in there. I'll figure out something to do with this, just some chopped mushrooms. I can throw this in anything. And the last thing we gotta prep is our garlic. So we're gonna take the skin off the garlic, and we'll also put a fine mince on it. And if you've got the pre-minced garlic in a tube or in a jar and you wanna use it because you wanna make it quick, that's okay, but fresh is always gonna be better. So now we're gonna clip the root end off of these, give each one a smash. And now quick mince. So now to this large pan, I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil and half a stick of butter. The pan doesn't need to be super hot. Just want the butter to melt. And while that butter's melting, the pan's heating up, we can throw in all of our aromatics. We don't need to brown these, so the pan doesn't need to be hot. You can add it to a coldish pan, and as the pan's coming up to temperature, the stuff will start to cook. And we're cooking over a medium, maybe a touch to medium low. Again, we don't want any browning or caramelization on this. We just want it to sweat out all of the liquid inside the garlic, the onions, and the mushrooms. We're gonna let these cook for about 5 to 10 minutes over this lowish temperature until the onions start to look very translucent and the mushrooms have released their liquid. You can see that they'll start to be more liquid inside the pan as the mushrooms start to cook and release it. Mushrooms are mainly water, so they hold a lot of water, and that water is absolutely delicious and loaded with flavor. This is a great way to capture that flavor. So you can see that there's a whole lot more moisture in the pan right now. So now I'm gonna take some of this fresh thyme, just a few sprigs, and I'll put the leaves in. You can use dried thyme in a pinch too, but just like I said about the garlic, fresh is always gonna be better. And if you're cooking Thanksgiving dinner, you probably already have loads of this already lying around, and probably way extra. I know I do every Thanksgiving. Just need a little bit, not a lot. So we're gonna take that and we're gonna cook that into this mixture of aromatics until we start to smell the thyme. It really doesn't need a whole lot of temperature or time because it releases the moisture and the oils that are inside the thyme that have the flavor really, really quickly. If you put it in too early, it tends to get a little black. It doesn't matter in this dish because we're gonna be blending everything together, but I think it also loses a little bit of potency and flavor if you put fresh herbs in too early in dishes. Now we're gonna season with just a very light pinch of salt. We're gonna put more salt in later, but we wanna season along the way. So I'm just gonna put in a very light pinch right now, a little bit more later, and then we might adjust it at the end. Now that this is done cooking, we're gonna throw this in a blender and blend it nice and smooth. So now we're gonna take these sweated down aromatics and we're gonna blend them inside this blender. You can use an immersion blender, but this is definitely way faster, even though I gotta clean the blender. And also it's gonna give me the right consistency. And also I don't think there's enough liquid inside the pan for the immersion blender to really be a good choice, even though it is super useful for quick blends. So now we're gonna add the blended liquid right back into our pan. So now to this liquid, we're gonna tap in a little bit of flour. We're gonna try to make a roux. There's a lot of fat inside here, so this should brown up really nicely. And what I like to do is just put a couple of tablespoons, not much. And so now over this lowish, same heat, probably like a medium lowish heat, I'm gonna take all this flour and cook it down until it starts to brown up a little bit. I think that spatula was the wrong tool, so I'm switching over to this metal whisk. I love these hex-clad pans because you can use the metal whisk right in there. Non-stick pans, I would not take a metal whisk and start scratching the bottom of the pan, but if you got a stainless steel pan or these hex-clad pans, you can do it and you're not gonna damage anything. And no, Hexclad did not pay me to say this. I love these pans. I've had them for a while. They are indestructible and super useful. If your mixture is looking a little thick, you can splash in just a little bit of the vegetable broth. We're gonna put more in later. We just wanna keep it slightly liquidy. We don't wanna boil it. Once this has started to get a little darker and thicken back up again, we're now gonna take about 2 cups, maybe a little less because we already put some in there, and we're gonna put that of vegetable broth. And if you want, you don't have to make this veggie like I'm doing right now. I just thought it would be a nice twist to show people that you can make a good gravy without needing any animal products. And that is a common thing that I do here, that people show up to Thanksgiving and it's so turkey centric and it's got broth and everything that people don't know what to eat. So now we're gonna whisk this until it gets nice and smooth. And you wanna whisk this like crazy to make sure that no clumps form. So there's a decent amount of flour in here. So if you let flour sit inside the pan, especially in all this liquid, it can get clumpy, but if you whisk a lot, probably won't. And once this is looking nice and smooth, we're gonna add about a cup of milk. So now to this, we're gonna add a little low sodium soy sauce. Some of this here, a Worcester sauce. Some of my base seasoning. This is a blend of garlic powder, onion powder, salt, and pepper. And now a super flavor enhancer. This is Better Than Bouillon's vegetable base. So a scoop of this goes a long way and is super flavor concentrated. This is a great application to use it. Now we're gonna whisk everything together. So we're gonna let this reduce and thicken up for about 5 to 10 minutes. We're gonna whisk it occasionally and make sure nothing's burning and also that there's no clumps in there. But once this thickens up a little bit, this gravy is good to go. If you want it a little thicker, you just keep simmering it. It'll keep reducing it. It'll keep getting a little thicker. I know that once I take this off the heat, this is gonna thicken up just nicely. What I like to see is like the bubbles with a little resistance. Almost looks like pancakes cooking. So you can see that as this is bubbling up a little bit, it's not completely liquid and it's got like a little bit of thickness to push through. That's when I generally know that gravy has a good consistency to it and you shouldn't cook it any longer, otherwise it's gonna get a little overly thick. So before we take this off the heat, this would be the time to adjust the salt. Let's give this a little taste and see if it needs any salt. Wow. No, this does not need any salt. This is absolutely good to go just like this. Transferring this gravy over to the gravy boat out of this pan is no easy trick, but the same cut off top of the milk jug that I use to get my sauces inside squeeze bottles, I'll take this and put this on top, and this is gonna make this so much easier. So now I'll use a ladle and I'll tilt the pan up and try to work as neatly as possible, getting my gravy inside the boat. And you could do it without this setup, but I guarantee you'd spill a whole lot more. And just like that, we have a gravy made, no drippings. And in this one, there's only the milk and the butter, so it's vegetarian but not vegan. You could swap out that veggie stock and that veggie bouillon for chicken or for turkey. They make both in the supermarket, and that would be even more a traditional and super turkey gravy. But enough talking about this gravy. Let's try it and let's see how we did. I got this bowl of some fluffy whipped mashed potatoes. That'll be the perfect thing to try out this gravy. And just for a little pop of color, let's sprinkle on some chives. This looks unreal, and it almost looks indistinguishable from like good turkey gravy. Let's get a nice hefty spoonful of the mashed potatoes, soaked in gravy. I am super excited to try this. This is gonna be an epic bite. If you put this on the table and you didn't tell anybody that this didn't have any turkey drippings in it, no one would say anything. This is so delicious and so good. It's so savory and so good. I mean, I made it myself, and I can't believe that there's no meat products, no turkey drippings, no nothing in here, no chicken bouillon. This is so good. I'm just completely blown away by how good this is and how quick it was, and we did it with everything that I usually have around the pantry anyway. I haven't had a bowl with mashed potatoes and gravy, like from KFC, in a long time. This blows that out of the water. I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but I'm gonna finish this bowl of mashed potatoes and gravy. While I'm doing that, you should check out my sweet potato casserole. That is a great version of sweet potato casserole for Thanksgiving. No marshmallows. I'll see you there. Thanks.